Alright, welcome to the video for chapter 4 of Ecce Romani. In this video we're going to look at the concept of direct objects, which is a function that nouns can play, that's persons, places, or things, can play in a sentence. Before we get there, I want to make a brief note about the nature of the Latin language. Latin is known as, it's highly inflected. Versus English, which we think of as just slightly inflected. Slightly inflected. And what that means is, in Latin, you see a lot of changes of word endings, and that's what's called inflection. So we've already seen a lot of different word endings. We've seen the A when it's masculine singular. We see the when it's feminine singular, AE when it's feminine plural. We've seen the US when it's masculine singular. We've seen an R when it's masculine singular. And we've seen the long I when it is masculine plural. Those are all inflected endings. So those we've also seen with verbs. We've seen the T when it's singular, and we've seen the unt when it's plural. So those are all different endings that Latin nouns and verbs have, and there are more. So we're going to add on a couple more today when we talk about direct objects. English doesn't quite have so many endings. We see nouns can have many different endings, and when they're singular, and when they're plural, most often they just have an S on them. And sometimes verbs have S's on them as well when they're plural, or when they're singular. But these have very specific and limited uses, whereas all Latin nouns, all Latin verbs, Latin adjectives are going to have these same endings as well. They all have a specific ending that means a specific thing in each specific instance. So that's what it means for a language to be highly inflected, as Latin is. So when we talk about direct objects, what do we mean? What are we saying? A direct object is a fancy way of saying the target of the verb. We can think of it as if we have an actor, let's say our Cornelia, and we have a verb like vexat, which we'll see in chapter 4, annoys. Cornelia annoys, who's the target? Who is she annoying? Let's say she annoys Sextus. So in this instance, Sextus is our direct object. He's the one who's being annoyed. So at all of our terminology, Cornelia there is the subject. She's the focus of the sentence. She's the one doing the action, so we can think of the subject as the doer, or as the actor, or as the focus. And note that the subject here is a noun. Always your subjects will be nouns. So Cornelia, we're saying she annoys, which is a verb. And then we have Sextus, who is the direct object. He is the target. He is the do-e or the act-e. We can think of him as those things. He's the one receiving the action. So direct object is just a fancy grammatical term that we use for the one who's receiving the action of a verb. So direct objects are something that we see a lot in English sentences, and they're something that we're going to see a lot in Latin sentences. Consider these English sentences. The dog is our subject, eats is our verb, an apple is our direct object there. The apple is receiving the action. The apple is being eaten by the dog. The apple is the doee. It is the one to whom the action of eating is happening. So it is the direct object. Let's see. We also have the cat is our subject. Plays is our verb. The piano. The piano here is our direct object. It's what's being played. It is the receiver of the playing. The cat is the actor. The cat is doing the playing. The piano is being played. The penguin drives the bus. So, do you see a pattern here? The direct object is always, there's this particular order. There's subject, there's verb, and there's the object, the direct object. And this is standard English word order. These sentences shouldn't seem odd to you other than the fact that the penguin is driving the bus, the cat is playing the piano, and the dog is eating an apple. Besides the subject matter, they're standard English sentences. These are called simple English sentences. That's an actual classification of sentences, is a simple sentence. Subject, verb, object. Now, in Latin, that predictable word order does not matter. So I'm just going to write this here. Word order does not matter. So we had that nice predictable word order in English. In Latin, it's not important. There is a standard Latin word order in which you'll see most of your sentences, but some sentences might appear in a variety of different orders and still mean exactly the same thing. And that's when we come back to this idea of Latin being a highly inflected language. Let's take a look at. So we've already seen how Latin nouns can be singular or plural based on a changing of their endings. We've seen the A, we've seen the AE. We've seen the US and the R, and we've seen the long I for a change of singular and plural. Okay, these are all, and I put them in orange here, these are all subject endings. So what that means is, in those sentences that we saw before in English, cat, dog, penguin, those were the people who were doing something. With these endings, this is always someone who's doing something. So, for instance, we see puella ambulat, puellae ambulant, puer clamat, pueri clamant. So we have another set of endings that we can change those words to make them receive the action instead of do the action themselves. So to consider that, let's look at this sentence where we have sextus vexat. So sextus is our subject. He has that familiar US ending that we've always seen sextus with. Sextus is annoying. Vexat is our verb. Sextus is annoying. We could ask the question, who is Sextus annoying? Who is the receiver of the annoyance? Who is being annoyed by Sextus? And we could answer, oh, it's Cornelia. But we're not going to stop at just Cornelia. It's Corneliam. And that's because this is the am is a direct object ending in Latin. So that's how we tell that Cornelia is the one who's being annoyed. And it's interesting because we could have the exact same words, Corneliam. We could say Vexat Sextus. And in this sentence, you would think that by traditional English word order, there's word 1, there's word 2, there's word 3, that Cornelia was annoying Sextus. But when we look at the endings, we see that Cornelia has that Corneliam ending, Sextus still has that traditional US ending, so it still means Sextus is annoying Cornelia. And we could mess up this sentence in all sorts of ways. We could say, Vexat Sextus Corneliam. And this is vexes Sextus Cornelia. If we read that as if it were English, we wouldn't know what to make of that sentence. So we need to look at the endings. Corneliam, Sextus. We know that Cornelia is the one receiving the vexing. Sextus is the one doing the vexing. Sextus, our subject, is annoying Cornelia. Again, let's say we did want to change the meaning of the sentence to Cornelia annoys Sextus. We can do that quite easily. As a matter of fact, we don't need to worry about word order. We just need to worry about changing the endings. So let's go back to what we originally had. Sextus Vexat Corneliam. So here's our sentence, Sextus is annoying Cornelia. Now, if we want to change that to Cornelia is annoying Sextus, we can erase the M on there, so it's Cornelia, back to what we had to begin with. And we can erase the S on Sextus and change that to the M. So Sextum Vexat Cornelia means that now Cornelia is our subject, Vexat is still our verb, and Sextum is our direct object. So Cornelia is annoying Sextus. And we changed the meaning of the Latin sentence without changing the order of any of the words. It was all entirely dependent on the endings of the words. So this can be pretty intimidating. And before we go any further, I just want to do a little exercise here. Then you'll get plenty of practice, and this is something that we'll see a lot of, so you'll get familiar with it over time. Don't worry if you don't get it right immediately. So we're going to have subjects over here. We're going to have direct objects over here. We have a subject, puella. If the girl is doing the action, it'll be puella. If the girl is receiving the action, it'll be puellam. If the boy, puer, is doing the action, it'll be puer. If the boy is receiving the action, it'll be puerum. If the, let's see, we have Marcus. If Marcus is doing the action, it'll be Marcus. If Marcus is receiving the action, it'll be Markham. All right, so that's just kind of a rundown. You can see the boy and Marcus are both masculine. They have the UM. Puella, same with Cornelia, is going to have this AM ending there, but they all end in M, which indicates direct object. So that's where I'm going to end this video because this has gone on long enough. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll put up a couple of supporting videos as well, so that hopefully we can look at this in small chunks, see plenty of examples, and get familiar with the concept. Thanks for watching. So here's one of those. We can have the sentence, Sextus Corneliam vexat. So we have our subject, we have our object, and we have our verb. And